Ever wonder what parts of America look the most vanilla? I'm talking whiter than an untouched Christmas morning kind of white. Well, buckle up, because today we're counting down the top 10 whitest states, according to the latest census data. These are the states with the highest white population. From remote mountain enclaves to tucked-away New England villages, we'll uncover the historical and cultural origins behind why certain corners of this nation have stayed predominantly, let's say, pale. It's a sensitive topic, so a disclaimer right up front. This is an objective dive into demographics and ethnic makeup, not a value judgment on any race or culture. The aim is to explore, not divide. So whether you're looking to discover unsung slices of Americana or just curious about population trends, get ready to have your mind whiter than white as we reveal the top 10 whitest states. Number 10. Nebraska. Nebraska may be a largely rural state, but that doesn't mean it's lacking in diversity and cultural heritage. The first white settlers in Nebraska arrived from places like Ohio, Pennsylvania, and Virginia in the early to mid-1800s, blazing trails out west. On March 1, 1867, President Andrew Johnson reluctantly signed the proclamation, declaring Nebraska's statehood. Today, Nebraska is 87.5% white. This high white population can likely be attributed to a few key factors. As a farming state, it may not have the same draw for diverse immigrant populations that are often attracted to major urban job centers and cultural hubs. Additionally, Nebraska was settled relatively late in terms of westward expansion. With less time for demographic shifts, those original settlement patterns helped cement a predominantly white populace that persists today. Number 9. Montana. Sweeping mountain vistas, wide open prairies, and some of the most pristine wilderness in the lower 48. Montana is a state that captures the rugged spirit of the American West. The Treasure State is 88.7% white as per the government's latest census data. Some of the top reasons behind Montana's overwhelming vanilla majority are geographic isolation and a lack of urban population centers. Surrounded by mountain ranges and rural expanses, Montana simply may not have been an accessible or appealing destination for many immigrant groups over the decades compared to coastal cities or more temperate regions. The state was settled in the 1800s by white homesteaders and miners, and that pioneering demographic took firm root. Even today, the state remains one of the nation's least densely populated states, without any major cities acting as diverse cultural hubs. Can you guess this next whitest Midwestern U.S. state? It is known for endless cornfields and beef. Number 8. Iowa. When you think of Iowa, images of idyllic farmlands and quaint small towns may come to mind. But there's so much more to discover about this heartland state's culture and heritage. The state's 89.8% white ratio can trace its origins back to the state's agricultural bedrock. Founded by settlers emigrating from states like Ohio, Pennsylvania, and Virginia, farming communities quickly took shape across Iowa's fertile plains, communities that retained their predominantly white populace for generations. Iowa is steeped in literary history as the birthplace and inspiration for renowned writers like Robert Waller and Bill Bryson. Cities like Des Moines, Cedar Rapids, and Iowa City offer a mix of cosmopolitan culture, outdoor attractions, and education at top universities. This next state is known for skiing. Can you guess it right? Number 7. Utah. From its origins as a remote outpost settled by Mormon pioneers to its current status as a thriving Rocky Mountain state, Utah is a place where traditions run deep, and so do some pretty incredible natural wonders. Utah is a whopping 90% pale. There are a few potential factors contributing to Utah's status as one of the nation's whitest states. One is undoubtedly the heavy influence of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. which has historically had an overwhelmingly white membership base among its founders and early pioneers who settled the Utah Territory. The relative geographic isolation of the Rocky Mountain region may have also made Utah less accessible to more diverse immigrant groups over time. However, the state's Hispanic population has seen rapid growth in recent decades. But beyond the religious and cultural roots, Utah offers an absolute feast for outdoor adventurers and nature lovers. You've got to see the sandstone wonders of zones like Arches and Zion National Parks. The state that's coming next is gifted with some of the most popular national parks in the world. Number 6, Wyoming. Towering mountain ranges, otherworldly geological wonders, incredible wildlife. Wyoming embodies the untamed spirit of the American West. It's no surprise this sparsely populated state with deep frontier roots remains one of the whitest in the nation. Wyoming is 92.3% pale. A relative lack of urbanization is one of the primary drivers of Wyoming's overwhelmingly pale demographic profile. Without any major cities or booming industries that tend to act as catalysts for immigrant population growth, white homesteaders and settlers were largely the only pioneers across Wyoming's remote, mountainous terrain in the 1800s. Those settlement patterns calcified a white majority over decades before eventually giving way to slowly increasing diversity in recent years. Today, you'll find reminders of that rugged heritage combined with vibrant Native American influences from tribes like the Arapaho, Cheyenne, Crow, and Shoshone. Number 5, New Hampshire. The slogan, "Live free or die," perfectly encapsulates the fiercely independent spirit that New Hampshire was built upon. This New England state has a long history, being one of the original 13 colonies first settled by European immigrants in the 1600s. Those early colonial roots have left an indelible mark on everything, from the state's culture and traditions to its quaint towns and cities. Those deep ancestral ties to the original colonial populace helped enshrine a 92.6% white majority that persists to this day in many of the state's rural communities and small towns. Additionally, New Hampshire may not have the same powerful economic gravity as major East Coast cities that attract large influxes of immigrant populations. Number 4, Idaho. Wild and untamed. Those are perfect words to describe the spirit of Idaho, a state known for its rugged mountains, whitewater rivers, and wide open spaces. Idaho's 92.6% vanilla population makes it 4th whitest state in the U.S. Idaho stands out for its lack of any major cities or urban centers that could serve as cultural and economic hubs attracting diverse populations. Instead, white settlers and miners were among the first to settle this rural, mountainous state in the 1800s, establishing a pioneering populace whose descendants helped maintain that original demographic makeup over generations. Also, Idaho's vast wilderness expanses and fairly inhospitable terrain may have made it less accessible and appealing to immigrant groups compared to more temperate regions. Today, Idaho effortlessly blends its frontier heritage with modern culture and attractions. Number 3, West Virginia. West Virginia is 92.8% Caucasian. Tucked away in the Appalachian mountain range, the mountain state is a place where time seems to stand still, allowing rich cultural traditions to persist across its rolling hills, winding river valleys, and coal mining towns. West Virginia's ethnic composition skews heavily white, likely due to its geographic isolation. Ringed by rural separations from major population centers, the areas now comprising West Virginia were among the last to be settled during America's western expansion, primarily by white migrants from other frontier territories. That late 1700s settlement period came well after many immigrant groups had already established footholds in coastal cities, contributing to the racial homogeneity that took root in the region. You'll find reminders of West Virginia's deep-rooted heritage at places like the Beckley Exhibition coal mine, museums chronicling the state's frontier days and Civil War milestones, and an abundance of colonial-era architecture. Number 2, Vermont. Vermont may be one of the smallest states, but it's overflowing with rustic New England charm, friendly small towns, incredible farm-fresh cuisine, and a fiercely protective environmental ethos. This northeastern state is 93.8% pale. There are a few potential reasons why Vermont stands out with one of the widest demographics in the nation. One is its early settlement in the late 1700s, primarily by Europeans arriving from England, Scotland, and other parts of Britain, giving the state deep ethnic roots before rising immigration from other parts of the world accelerated. Vermont's rural character and relatively isolated geography, hugged by mountains and forests, may have also made it slower to welcome increasingly diverse influxes seen in other regions. The state even remains sparsely populated today by urban standards. Number 1, Maine. And finally, we come to the whitest state of all, Maine, where picturesque coastal villages, historic lighthouses, and wide-open wilderness converge in one idyllic New England paradise. The Pine Tree State is 93.9% vanilla. Maine's position atop the whitest states list can likely be credited to its very earliest settlement history, combined with geographical circumstances. English colonists first arrived in the 1600s, founding some of North America's oldest outposts and establishing ethnic homogeneity that prevailed for centuries before more widespread immigration took hold. As the nation's northeastern corner tucked away from major migration paths, Maine simply may not have been a top destination for diverse immigrant groups over hundreds of years. Its rural, maritime character persisted. You'll find that heritage reflected in everything from the classic seafood cuisine to the iconic local accents and mom-and-pop stores populating quaint towns like Kennebunkport, Camden, Bar Harbor, and Portland. Now, if you enjoyed this video, then you will want to check out the next one that's on your screen right now.